Perhaps you self-appointed social engineers don't realize the crucial role mutation plays in species evolution. Digimon! Digimon! Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions. Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions. Change into digital champions to save the digital world. It's Symbiote Spider. Oh boy.
Okay, so this is PlayStation 1 Venom. It's based off the Spider-Man game back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think a lot of us have grown up with the PlayStation 1 Spider-Man game. It's iconic, and I know a lot of the guys who were born in the 90s and 80s have the nostalgia I've got as well for this character.
Quit slacking, boy!
When I was asked to do this, I was incredibly hesitant because it's so out of my style. Yes, it's a symbiote, and yes, I do succeed when it comes to making symbiotes. But with that said, when I was asked to make like the polygons all over its body and have it look nostalgic, like it wasn't meant to look like Blue and a Venom. It had to actually represent the game's graphics, and for me that was the hardest challenge, because taking these hands and basically attacking them with a Dremel and cutting them so that they had that nostalgic, iconic PlayStation graphics was kind of like uncomfortable. Uncomfortable in the sense that I like my customs to look aesthetically pleasing, organic, the muscle textures, all the details, and this is far from it. You can tell there's no detail in this figure in terms of sculpt. It's just all sanded down. So what I did is I sanded the beast mold completely smooth after completely disassembling it. Smooth to the touch, which was really nice, having it super smooth. But then I knew that I had to go in and start attacking it with the Dremel to make it more polygon-esque. PlayStation 1 graphics. You know, the graphics back then were shocking. They weren't good. So for me to take that and push it into an action figure form, I kept saying, you know, this isn't going to translate all the best. You know, there's going to be issues where people aren't going to take to it because, you know, it's got squared off blocky features and the paint apps are basic, minimal. I tried to lift it, you know, I kept a lot of like the fade so you can see like it's a dark to light blue, and I don't know whether on the camera it's coming through, but it's got like a lot of light blues and, you know, all these nice paint apps. And to make the blue emphasized, I hit it with the airbrush and then I left like gray spots to allow a certain amount of sort of shading, and then I kind of faded, like wet blended different blues into this to give it some kind of detailing. The head I was on the fence with for so long. I was so unsure. This custom tested me as an artist. I ran into so many issues, and you'll be able to see that on my Instagram on the stories. There's a little tab where you'll see and the whole work in progress paint applications. I'm not going to go through it too much on this video, but check out my Instagram. It's all there from start to finish paint wise, and what paints I used and how I went about it, and I describe in detail. But yeah, so trying to translate this guy into action figure form for me was the hardest part, because like the hands, I had it so it was free fingers and a thumb, and I looked and I kept looking in the reference art and I was like, dude, he only has 2 fingers. And one of my Instagram followers hit me up and said, hey man, you gotta keep that nostalgia, you gotta make it 2 fingers. And I'm like, dude, cutting the fingers off a beast, like this is a beast mold. This was beast underneath, believe it or not. This was this completely sanded down and polygoned, and you know, there's everything. There's no, the feet were Omega Red, which again I polygoned, made them squared off and nostalgic. You know, the PS1 graphics, the head, I feel for me the head misses the mark a little bit because the teeth were super hard to translate. I couldn't figure out how to go about it, and I was on the fence and I was kind of questioning myself, how am I going to do it, and like I kept looking at reference art and the way the jaw sits is exactly like that. I was like, man, that looks weird, but it translates from action figure form to custom, and that's kind of how it looks, you know, like with the teeth and they're all kind of jagged. And like I said, I kept questioning myself whether I was doing the right thing over and over and over. I wasn't sure if I was doing it right because I know people really love this Venom. It's part of their childhood, and if I mess it up they're not going to like me for it. But I got an overwhelming positive response from people inboxing me, all the comments, all the nice words, all the kind words all over the comment section, and people loved it. It's probably one of my highest liked figures, which is so shocking because I truly don't feel like I did this justice, but a lot of people think I did. I'm just glad that it hit the mark for some, and if it didn't hit the mark for you, I apologize. I know, like I said, how iconic this character is. I spent probably 60 hours just sanding off the fur. 60 hours just dremeling it, sanding it smooth, and then polygoning it, making sure there's no joint rub at all in any of these. The head probably took me, I don't know, 10 hours to get right because I constantly painted it and it didn't quite look right. And then the butterfly joints, I didn't know that these butterfly joints were going to have like a bracket all the way through that stabilizes them. It's ever so strange, weird mechanics. I found it in Vulture as well. Vulture has the exact same process. But I got in there and removed it all, and it still works exactly the same. So I don't know what the point of that is. Maybe it's like a stabilizer or something. I don't know, because it still works perfectly fine. So who knows? Hasbro makes some weird choices when it comes to these things. So let's go through some size comparisons, and then I will go through the articulation.
Come to Papa! Brains.
So here he is, side by side with the Beast. They are a little bit different in size and scale. You can tell that the feet have raised him up a little bit, and the head is quite large. So he stands quite a bit taller than the Beast. And if I was to posture his belly up a little bit more, he's even more larger. He is Venom after all, so you expect him to be quite big.
Out of my way, nerd! Watch that first step, Parker. It's a doozy.
So here he is next to Pizza Spider-Man. And here he is next to PS4 Spider-Man. Here he is next to Carnage. And here he is next to
Scream.
Here he is next to my custom Flash Thompson Venom, Agent Venom. And here he is next to Venomized Old Man Logan. Here he is next to McGorgon Venom.
Slowpoke.
And here he is next to Venomized Immortal Hulk.
If you want to fight, follow me.
So I really hope that this guy hit the mark for you guys. For me, it fell short a little bit, but the customer was happy with it. I love having this guy on a shelf. I've got to admit, he is very, very prominent. Like, people will see this and be like, whoa, that's a centerpiece, in terms of how well it looks just standing there. You know, it looks good. People have said to me, this is a great Venom mold, and it is. It's pretty nice for a Venom. The only thing, if I had to change, if it was for Venom, as in like an organic looking, like natural looking proportion Venom, is the thighs are quite large, so they kind of make his torso taper strange. And what I would do is I'd crack this torso and slightly expand it and raise him up a little bit. That way the arms don't look as gangly, but in the game that's what they look like. So, you know, when he's posed, he's kind of always hanging over Spider-Man, you know. Tell you what, playing the game though, I used to enjoy facing this guy. He was one of the harder bosses, that's for sure though, with the train and then Mary Jane's hanging in the acid.
Gotcha! Laying down on the job, Parker?
It's like, dude, this guy was savage back in the day. And then next thing you know, they're friends. You know, spoiler alert if you haven't played it. You know, it's only a million years old by now. Yeah. It was such a good game. Man, just creating this has brought back childhood memories for sure.
Who is it?
So let's go through the articulation real quick. Okie dokie. So let's start with the head. You get quite a lot of range. You get head pivot, down, butterfly joints, which is painted all the way through there, and they work really well. And the same for the back. You get quite a lot of range. I actually extended it, so you get even more range. Bicep swivel, again, double jointed elbows, painted all the way through. And I even made the inside of those polygony. Torso, so you get twist, and again I would do this very carefully, just in case. Forward a little, there's no forward, there's a bit of back. There's a bit of back, you can see that, a bit of back. No waist swivel, remember the beast mold doesn't have it. The legs kick up, and again I would be careful just in case, although I did prep. This shifting mechanism I would just leave as it is, don't mess with it. This mold I have never sanded down before, so that's why I'm being quite weary about it. And then it's got the thigh cut. It's very stiff, by the way, as you can imagine. Double jointed knees. Massive range. Then we've got ankle articulation. Great articulation on this guy. And as you saw, there was no pain rub. And that was the first time I tested the joints. So, worked out well. Hope you enjoyed this custom. I don't very rarely do this, but if you could hit a like, I would greatly appreciate it, and maybe consider subscribing. I have a lot of YouTube videos on the channel that you might enjoy. So I will catch you on the next one.
Link in the description below. Subscribe!
Mary Jane looks a little thirsty. By the by, Parker, how long can Mary Jane hold her breath? Oh, Spider-Man! Oh, help me! I'm drowning!